Hey guys, I wanted to do a very quick and dirty video showing you how you can take a group of drums live and basically using your RM mixer and using your DAW. I'm going to be using StudioOne. How you can take those drums and process them with plugins and then bring them back into the mixer and use them live. So of course I don't actually have a live drummer because I'm in my studio, but what I've done is on channels 1 through 14, which are my drum channels, I've actually made the inputs coming from Firewire. But of course, if I was, out on a gig, these would be set to analog. So it's the same thing as basically having 14 individual channels coming in. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to take your drum channels and take them off of the main bus. So basically you just select every single channel and make sure that right here, none of the drums are assigned to the main bus. So they will just default to that, and I've just basically done that for all 14 channels, take them out of the main bus. The second thing that you want to do is turn 2 of your flex mixes into subgroups. They default as aux sends, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn them into subgroups. So on my flex mixes 15 and 16, all I have to do is click on mix 16 right here, and then click on its flex fader. And then right here you can see I can link, and I'm going to go ahead and link mix 15 and 16 together. And now to the left I'm going to click on subgroup. So I'm going to change it from an aux send to a subgroup. The last thing we need to do is assign my drums to that subgroup, and you do that by hitting this little edit button right here. And now you can see I can just select the channels that I want in that subgroup. So I'm going to go ahead and select channels 1 through 14, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, then hit done, and now we're done. Now while you're here, make sure you click on the flex fader of that subgroup and make sure that it also is not assigned to the main bus. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is basically send this subgroup to Firewire streams or ASIO streams to my computer. And you do that by clicking on the little gear icon in the upper right hand corner, and then you can see there's all of the various tabs here. What we want to do is click on the Aux Routing tab. And the RM mixers are really unique in the fact that most other digital mixers, if it's a 32 channel mixer, you have 32 streams, maybe a master stream. But actually we have with the RM mixers an additional bunch of streams here. They're called auxiliary outputs, and they can be assigned to of course your master fader, your main mono output. Any of your aux sends can be recorded, your subgroups can be recorded, your effect sends can be recorded. So all we're going to do here is basically change outputs 33 and 34. I think it'll default to the main mix left right. I want to put that on mix 15 and 16, which now is my subgroup. Okay, so after we're done with that, we just close out of this, and we're going to go ahead and open up StudioOne or whatever DAW you're using. You can also use an application like Waves MultiRack, which is a host. It's not a DAW, but it's a host, and meaning that it will take streams from basically from your mixer to the computer and allow you to process plugins. So I'm using StudioOne, and when I click on StudioOne, you come to the start page here. I want to go to configure audio devices and set my buffers or your device block size right here. And really, this basically what this does is this enables you to essentially try to get the lowest amount of latency that you can. It's a little bit of a trade-off because depending on, of course, the speed of your computer, which plugins you want to use, how many plugins you want to use, will determine how low you can get your buffers. And of course, the lower you can get your buffers, the less latency you have. So it's a little bit of a trade-off here. This is an older computer, a 2008 model Mac Pro. I will be lucky to get 64 samples, but I'm going to try to go for 64 samples here. And if you hear some crackly weirdness, you can always bump it up to 128, but I'm going to try 64. Okay, and hit OK. And then you basically create a new song and you create a stereo track, and I've already done that. and I've basically just called the stereo track drums. Of course, it's empty. Okay, now the next thing you need to do is you need to set up some input and output buses that will basically feed that track and be able to send out of that track back to the mixer. So to do that, you click on the I/O button right here, and as you can see, you have two different tabs, inputs and outputs, and these are input buses and output buses. So what I want to do is first of all create a stereo input bus, and to do that you just go down here and hit the add stereo button. And basically I've already done this, and what I've done is I've created a stereo bus, and I've made the input of that bus ASIO streams 33 and 34 right here, okay? And I just named that just so it would be easy for me to remember, from RM. So that means that's an input bus coming from the RM mixer, okay? And then the same thing you're going to do for the outputs. You're going to click on the outputs tab. Whoops. Click on the outputs tab and go down and create add stereo output bus. And same thing here. On that output bus, I named it to RM because it's going to basically be a bus going back to the mixer. And I made the outputs 17 and 18. Okay, now with that stereo track that I've created, I just make the input from the RM, make the output to the RM, and now I can apply some plugins. Okay, so now that I've done that, I have one last thing that I need to do, and that is back on the RM mixer on channels 17 and 18. Remember, I've got my drums coming in on channels 1 through 14. But on 17 and 18, what I've done is I've created a stereo track. So basically all I did was I clicked on channel 17, and you click on the little gear icon, you hit link, and then I put the input from analog to FireWire. Now I'm on an RM16, meaning it'll always be FireWire because RM16 only has 16 analog inputs, but that's fine because now I'm going to basically be bringing in my drums on these faders right here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and play some drums, and we're going to apply some plugins. So here's my drums dry. Okay, so now you can see I've got a couple plugins that I've thrown on here. I've got a Pro EQ, Universal Audio 1176, and a Room Reverb. So now everything's bypassed right now. I'm going to go ahead and kick these in. So here's without, and here's with. And again, with no plugins, and with plugins. And you can see right here, here's all of my stereo drums with plugins coming in on 17 and 18. Now one thing I'll tell you that's really cool is that, of course I just used these plugins just on the output of this drum bus, but remember, on every single individual drum I still have, full fat channel, EQ, compressor, gate, limiter on every individual drum. But now that I've assigned them to this stereo bus, I'm sending the stereo bus to StudioOne, hitting some plugins, bringing it back onto a fresh set of stereo inputs, which are right here with effects. So hopefully this was helpful to you, and thanks a lot for watching.